Hello, my name is Dale DuFay. I'm doing a video here so you can see me and what I look like. I haven't had a beard in about 10 years, but I thought I'd grow it again. But this channel is specifically about stuff I've experienced in my life, and really, it's when I look back and think about it, kind of nonchalant. It's like kind of an unassuming life. But when I think about other, things I've experienced, it really isn't an unassuming life, really. I've experienced quite a bit. I'm going to, here on December 10th, 2021, I'm going to be 63 years old. I was born in 1958 and indeed have a very interesting life. And I'd like to maybe do a series of videos, short videos, talking about what I've experienced. And it's not going to be chronological because I like to start off in the mid 70s when I was living in Denver, Colorado. My uncle had moved there to get away from Naperville, Illinois, and he moved there, and a lot of his friends moved there and remained there until they died, really. So I went out there in the early 70s to move in with my uncle and experience what it was like to live in Denver, Colorado. It was pretty interesting. I liked it a lot better than Naperville, Illinois at that time. So it was different, and it was, I liked it. Of course, I had long hair and a beard back then, and that was kind of shunned in certain areas in Colorado. I remember even going to a restaurant in the mountains after a long trip up there. My uncle and I, just happened to be sitting in this booth, and right on the table in a booth that said they didn't, serve people with long hair and things like that. So we felt kind of uncomfortable, but they treated us decent. In fact, there was even, police officers in the booth right next to us. So it was kind of strange. And even back then, you were even able to, I think I was sporting a Bowie knife on my belt and things like that. And that was totally acceptable. But the incident I want to talk about, the most incredible thing that happened to me in Colorado, in Denver, Colorado, was when I was with my girlfriend and her brother, and it was an early Sunday morning. I can't remember the exact date because at first I kind of blocked the incident out of my mind. But it was an early Sunday morning. There was hardly any traffic, and we were on Interstate 25, just south of the junction of I-70. And those are two major highways. I-70 goes from east to west, and it crosses over the Continental Divide in Colorado, and I-25 went north and south and through Wyoming and through Colorado into New Mexico. And it was a pretty major highway, but I was on I-25 heading south, and I'll pop up some graphics showing you exactly where the incident occurred. And this incident was very phenomenal. Again, it was very light traffic. We were traveling southbound on I-25 in an old 56 Chevy pickup truck where there wasn't even paint on it. It was all primer. It was a truck that I had started from, broke down and cleaned up, took it down to the chassis, replaced all the worn out parts and painted the chassis and put on the body. Never got beyond the priming aspect of it. Always wanted to paint it, but it was a really cool 56 Chevy pickup truck. So we were all in the cab. I forgot where we were heading. It was some appointment we had to keep, simply because I know I wouldn't have been on the road early on a Sunday morning, and we all had to go there. I can't really remember what it curtailed, but the thing I do remember is as we were traveling, very light traffic, I noticed people, it was right around the Spear Boulevard exit. I noticed people were pulled over on the highway, and it really piqued my curiosity. And I noticed they were all looking up, so I looked up, of course, and whoa, lo and behold, there was this giant unidentified aircraft. It spanned across the whole highway, and at that time it was 6 lanes, 3 lanes on each side, plus the shoulder and the ramp and everything, but it was hovering right over the bridge of Spear Boulevard. It was only a couple 100 feet off the ground. This thing was huge, and it was incredible. I actually pulled over and to check it out. I was getting out to look at it, and at that point it took off. So I jumped back in my truck and got off the exit on Spear Boulevard and went down Spear Boulevard towards it because it kind of goes on an angle across the city of Denver. And the aircraft, the U.F.O, took that same exact direction. But I, foolishly thought I'd go after it so I can get a better look at it. But obviously it disappeared in an instant because of its high acceleration. And I had wished I would have, stopped and talked to the people because they were there a lot longer than I was. But I did get a good look at it. And there were, and I look back at it now, and I totally remember it. But right after it happened, we were all kind of, when I got back in the truck, my girlfriend and her brother didn't get out. They were scared, and they were yelling at me, But when I finally got back in, and we, went on our way, we were kind of very quiet. Didn't even talk about it, I think we initially looked at each other and did you see that, that kind of thing. But right afterwards, I mean, I was excited to share it and everything, and I even went home to tell my uncle, and I was so excited. I could tell right away he thought I was nuts. You could tell immediately that people weren't going to believe you, even though you saw it with your own eyes, So it was kind of strange. We didn't talk about it for many, many years. In fact, about 20 years later, I contacted, well, my daughter was getting married from my first marriage. And I talked to, I went to the wedding, and they were living in Raleigh, North Carolina at the time. And I mentioned it to them, my ex-brother-in-law and ex-wife, and they totally don't recall it at all. I mean, that's how much we blocked it out of our mind. In fact, I, totally blocked it out of my mind too, till like 5 years afterwards, and then started talking about it because you really did see it, And the thing I recall the most about it is I noticed there was paint on it. It was the craft was painted and it was wore off, like you would expect if there was a craft that can go interstellar and go from planet to planet, would be wore out, or kind of like an automobile, So that's the thing that struck me funny. And it was like a light green paint, and the rest of it was silver. So I can't help but wonder if the thing was terrestrial, if it was actually made by human beings and advanced technology that perhaps our government has and has known about for decades. So I can't, look back, at the time I saw it, I was certain it was a UFO from another planet. But now I can't help but wonder if it was something that was made by our government, So they, why was it hovering over Denver, totally uncloaked there for everybody to see? Again, I wasn't the only one to see it, besides the people in the vehicle with me. There was other vehicles pulled over. There was at least 6 vehicles pulled over. So who knows how long it was there. Again, I wished I would have stopped, and talked to the people and asked them how long it was there. But again, the thing spanned the entire highway, and right next to the highway was the Mile High Stadium where the Denver Broncos played. And this was a huge stadium. This thing, if it was over the stadium, would have been larger than the stadium itself. That's how big it was. It was very huge and just sitting there totally silent. And then we didn't hear any noise when it took off either. Just instantly, it's almost as like it disappeared, but it actually disappeared because of its high speed and distance it went in an instant. So that was a really incredible, incident that occurred in my life that I'll never forget. And the unusualness of it, and of course the fact that you couldn't prove it, and nobody had cameras, on their cell phones or anything like that. Once in a while, people were smart enough to put a Polaroid or have a camera handy, 35 millimeter or something, but I didn't have neither, so there's no way I recorded it. And perhaps some of the other people did, but I doubt it. Again, this was like, I think it was, I can't even be positive about the year, but it was definitely between 1976 and 1978 that it occurred. So nobody probably had cameras. Nobody was able to record this thing. Nobody was able to prove it, including myself. But we did see it, and we couldn't share it with anybody. And I did think it was interesting that my ex and my ex-brother-in-law don't recall it at all. But I mean, but that's how bizarre it was. It had to really took a long time for me personally to wrap my head around it. And so no doubt it was the case with my girlfriend and her brother, at that time. So they probably didn't wrap their head around it at all, because it was such an extraordinary thing to see. But it sure changed my life and opened my mind, and from then on, nothing really surprised me. So look forward to more videos on this channel about my own personal life. I have experience in the Mandela Effect now, so I concentrate a lot of videos on other channels about that. But this one, we're not going to talk about it other than mentioning it, because it is the most important thing that ever happened in all humanity. So nothing's going to really be beyond that. But I'm going to concentrate on the little tidbits through my life that are interesting and I could talk about and share with you on this channel, my personal channel. So with that, I thank you for watching, and we'll talk at you later. I love you.